So picture this: chandeliers glittering above Buckingham Palace's grand dining hall, silver cutlery glinting on crisp white linen, and a crowd of nobles, ambassadors, and carefully chosen guests whispering in anticipation. Everyone knew the evening would be important. They just didn't realize it would become historic. In the middle of it all stood Princess Anne, the tireless workhorse of the royal family. At 74, and had practically become the monarchy's steel backbone, the one who never wavered, never flinched, no matter how turbulent the family scandals or how cruel the headlines. If the monarchy was a grand old ship, Anne was the steady hand on the tiller, steering it through endless storms. So when she rose to give her speech, the room fell into a charged silence. People leaned in, bracing for one of Anne's famously blunt remarks. Instead, they got something that would leave the royal family reeling for months. Anne calmly announced she was stepping down from public life. There was no trembling in her voice, no grand tears or forced drama. Just a composed, slightly wistful acceptance that her chapter was ending. But even before the applause, polite, stunned, laced with panic, could fully ripple through the hall, Anne dropped her second bombshell. She turned slightly toward Catherine, Princess of Wales. And with the simplest words, she handed over her entire legacy. Catherine's unexpected coronation of trust. It was almost eerie how quiet the room went. You could practically hear hearts thumping through silk gowns and stiff lapels. Anne praised Catherine's grace, resilience, and absolute dedication, saying she was the obvious choice to continue the work. No flowery flattery. Just the kind of blunt, heartfelt endorsement that Anne was known for and that carried far more weight because of it. In that single moment, Catherine's future changed forever. 4 years, the world had watched Catherine weather the unique cruelties of royal life, the brutal glare of the press, whispers about her middle-class background, then the terrifying ordeal of cancer treatment that forced her to retreat from public life. Everyone worried if she would ever come back the same. Or come back at all. Now here she was, summoned not just to return, but to become the monarchy's new linchpin. It wasn't just a handover of duties. It was a shift of power. A statement that the next chapter of the British royal story wouldn't be written by the old guard anymore, but by a woman who'd proven she could survive the worst and still emerge smiling, steady, unbreakable. A friendship forged through quiet trials. What most people didn't see was the deep private bond that had grown between Anne and Catherine over the years. Long before this glittering dinner, Anne had quietly mentored her niece-in-law, guiding her through the labyrinth of royal obligations, whispering advice only someone with Anne's hard-earned scars could give. They'd met in secret more than once at Gatcombe Park, Anne's country retreat. There, away from the cameras and palace gossips, and shared truths that no royal manual could teach: how to brace for tabloid vultures, how to steel your nerves at a hospital bedside opening after reading about your own doomed marriage that very morning. How to do the work without letting the noise get inside your head. Anne saw a lot of herself in Catherine. A woman underestimated at first, then revealed to be tougher than anyone guessed. Someone who could smile for the crowds even with fresh stitches under her sleeve. Someone who understood that being royal was less about glittering gowns and more about putting on boots in the rain to stand by a charity founder in tears. So when Anne decided to bow out, it felt almost inevitable that she would trust Catherine to carry it forward. The shadow of illness and why it matters so much now. Of course, it wasn't just a feel-good succession story. Catherine's own recent journey had added a raw, almost mythic undertone. When she was diagnosed with cancer in March 2024, it shook the monarchy to its core. Here was the bright, beloved future queen, suddenly fragile and forced into seclusion. There were days when the entire country seemed to hold its breath waiting for updates. By January 2025, when she declared she was in remission, the relief was enormous. But it was also clear she had changed. Friends whispered that Catherine had come out of the ordeal with a sharper sense of purpose, a clearer idea of what kind of queen she wanted to be. Her first big return came at Trooping the Colour in June, where she stood proudly beside her children, radiant but still slightly guarded, as if daring fate to knock her down again. Later at the Order of the Garter, her quiet conversations with and hinted at deep strategy. And when she decided to skip royal Ascot days later to prioritize her health even after promising to attend, it was the final sign that Catherine was rewriting the royal rulebook on her own terms. She would serve, yes. But she would not destroy herself to do it. Anne's handover matters far beyond pageantry. It's easy to think this is just about fancy events, titles, and centuries-old charities. But beneath the velvet and protocol, Anne's retirement and her choice of Catherine is about ensuring the monarchy doesn't crack under modern pressures. For over 50 years, Anne was the monarchy's hidden superpower. While her brothers courted controversy or tabloid scorn, Anne kept a punishing schedule, attending hundreds of engagements a year. She was famously no-nonsense, practical shoes, old coats, the very opposite of celebrity royals. She could spend a morning talking about sustainable farming and an afternoon comforting abuse survivors, and never once made it about herself. Now that foundation was being handed to Catherine, a woman who mixed Anne's sense of gritty duty with a softer, emotional openness. It wasn't lost on anyone that Catherine's first major event after inheriting Anne's portfolio would be the Royal Highland Show in Scotland, Anne's old stronghold. But this time, Catherine planned to linger with local farmers, discuss climate anxiety, and connect mental health initiatives to rural hardship. That was how she planned to blend her own scars with Anne's legacy, by showing people that the royals didn't just cut ribbons. They listened. They learned. They cared. Behind the velvet curtain, the family adjusting to a new queen in waiting. Of course, all this rearranging of royal responsibilities doesn't happen in a vacuum. King Charles, watching from his own uncertain health perch, has leaned more heavily on Catherine since and began quietly preparing to step back. His warm smiles at her during Trooping the Colour weren't just familial. They were a king publicly signaling his trust. Prince William, meanwhile, is learning what it means to truly share the load. Long criticized for skipping certain traditional duties to focus on causes like Earthshot, he now has Catherine by his side taking on more of the public grind. Royal insiders say her unwavering composure through illness made William almost painfully proud and quietly resolved to support her as she shoulders Anne's old burdens. It's even changing expectations inside the palace. Staff who once tiptoed around William now seek Catherine's input first. She is becoming the monarchy's new linchpin not because of her birth, but because she earned it through sweat, pain, and a million small, kind interactions that never made the papers. The questions that still haunt this fairy tale. And yet, there's an undercurrent of unease. Can Catherine really manage the punishing calendar that Anne did, while also being the hands-on mother she insists on being to George, Charlotte, and Louis? Will she prune the monarchy's endless list of obscure patronages to focus on a few powerful causes? Or is she setting herself up for the same exhaustion that drove so many royal women into silent misery? Observers wonder too if her modern approach, more Instagram videos about vulnerability, fewer stiff balcony poses, might ultimately save the monarchy or hasten the calls for its abolition. Because make no mistake, Catherine isn't just continuing Anne's legacy. She's transforming it. And that means risks. Still, those who know her best say she's never been more ready. That fighting cancer taught her life was too short for empty gestures. That every handshake, every ribbon cut, every speech is now something she does with raw, deliberate purpose. Now, over to you. Is Catherine truly the right woman to take the monarchy's heavy future on her shoulders? Will she blend Anne's grit with her own warm humanity to remake royal duty for a skeptical new generation? Or is this just another gilded shuffle on the same old stage? Drop your thoughts below. You know we love reading them. And if you're hooked on stories about quiet power, tender family dramas, and the real lives behind palace gates, hit subscribe. We've got more royal secrets brewing than even the tabloids can keep up with. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you in the next deep dive.